www.gundam.tk presents Shining Gundam. When everything's done and put together, you can see that there really is not a lot of stuff that comes with this Shining Gundam. You're going to get 2 beam sabers, you're going to get 4 sets of fists, 2 legs, the waist section is attached to the chest, 2 arms, a head, extra mask, the core lander, and the dome and cache figure. Starting at the bottom and working our way up for the parts, here's a look at the leg of the Shining Gundam. And as far as mobility goes, you're going to be able to get almost a 180. The ankle moves this much to the side, and forward and back about this much. Now, what's cool about this is that it has a transformation feature. Well, it's a little lame, you could say, but that bends down, and on the other side, when it goes into hyper mode, this opens up, and it reveals some gold jets inside. Yeah, that's it for the legs transformation. The torso and the waist are 1 unit, and in the back you have a hole, and that's where the core lander is going to attach in, if you think of the core fighter from the original Gundam. As far as for the front of the skirt, this black part here is actually a sticker, which is nice, and that's gray from underneath, but the rest I lined here with black and lined down here with black. For the chest itself, the Vulcans look really sharp up at the top in yellow, just put some black dot in the middle for lining. These yellow pieces look sharp. One complaint I had about this sticker is that, well, it's a shiny, special, mystical jewel of some sort. It doesn't quite fit into the hole here, so it's going to stick out a little bit, as you might be able to see. But I figured it's better than jamming it in there and scratching it up. Here are the arms for the Shining Gundam, and when you take a look at it, mobility, it can bend in and out this much. It has a bend up like this, so you're able to get almost the full 180. As far as the rest of the features go, these are plastic fists that just fit in on a ball joint, so they're very easy to pull out and replace with something else, like the Kung Fu hands. As far as this goes, this has some weapons underneath, and when it goes into hyper mode, just like the legs, it's a very exciting transformation. Pull it up and out, and basically it just reveals a little bit more of what's underneath. One thing that's cool, they do give you a King of Hearts sticker to put on the shoulder, and when it goes into hyper mode, its real claim to fame for the Shining Gundam is that this pops open and reveals the gold frame inside, but in this case it's just yellow. Here's a quick look at 6 of the hands that aren't attached. Basically, you're going to get 2 that can hold beam sabers like this, 2 fists, 2 open hands, and 2 shining fingers. 1 for the left, 1 for the right, in bright green. For the beam swords themselves, there are actually 2 different lengths. So the pink parts here, the beams are 2 different lengths, and the handles are 2 different lengths too. Now, I don't know why, but I think this core lander is actually pretty cute. It's mostly blue with some white undertrim there. When you put it onto the back of the Gundam, this becomes a thruster, and this yellow grate can move up and down. And inside, there's a small figure of Doman that you can paint. To transform this core lander, it's a little bit hard. You might have to get in there with a modeling knife, but basically you just pull that up, and then what happens is, it just plugs in to the back of the Shining Gundam. This becomes thrusters, etc., and more importantly, Doman is inside, ready to fight. And I should mention here that unlike all the regular pilots in Gundam, he's actually fighting inside the Gundam, which the Gundam then mimics his movements. The head of the Shining Gundam can either be one of its greatest strengths or weaknesses, depending on what you think of this series in general. But what's pretty cool about this is it comes with a lot of lining that you can do, not too hard to put in some black lines around there. But the important thing about this head is that it transforms. So to do that, very simply, you pull those up, pull these out to the side, and you're left with this. But one more important addition is that the front part is supposed to open. That's why it has the line down the middle. But Bandai was a little bit lazy here, but in a way I think it makes for a better model because they actually made 2 different faceplates that you attach. On the right you have the regular faceplate, which I've pulled off, because now the G Gundam has transformed into hyper mode, and basically this is just supposed to open up. So I think the head looks pretty cool. It's very unique for a Gundam, but I like it with both the regular face mask on, and I think it looks pretty cool in hyper mode. Now with this few parts, putting it together is going to be a snap, so let's take a look at it put together. If you've seen the anime, you've seen that Domon, all he has to do is snap his fingers and yell Gundam at the top of his voice. And no matter where he is, from out of a waterfall or under a mountain, out of the woods, or it'll just fly in, the Shining Gundam will appear. Bottom to top, here is the Shining Gundam. For the spin arounds, here's the front. Just put that down. 45. Side. Back 45. And the back. First, a couple notes about putting it together. When you put in the arms, etc., there's actually a specific way. They're not just a regular ball joint that you plug it into. So you have to put the arm on like this, squeeze it in, and then lock it down into place. And something about this model in general is that the joints are very, very stiff, which is going to prove to be good in the future if you're trying to hold up any kind of cool poses in the... Now this is just a pretty lame pose that I've pulled together, but the action frame actually lets you do a fair bit of stuff with it, and it can keep its balance really, really well. And the stiff joints really go a long way towards helping that. The beam sabers fit in the hands, no problem at all. Something I want to complain about a little bit is the proportion of this model. Well, I think it actually looks pretty good as a Gundam. There's a couple things that it could have done better. In the anime, it's a lot bigger and stronger, which sort of suits the whole martial arts theme. So I think that they could have done a little bit better job of this. It looks a little bit skinny. But of course, what everybody was waiting for, including Domon himself in the series, is for the Shining Gundam to go into super mode. So there he is, the King of Hearts, Shining Gundam, super mode. And of course it wouldn't be G Gundam without the regular hand coming off and being replaced with the famous Shining Finger. His finishing move for wiping out just about anybody in the show. For size comparisons, here he is next to the regular Gundam, being a little bit smaller. Here is the Shining Gundam up against the 00 Gundam, 1/100th non-grade. And once more against another 18-meter Gundam, this is the Force Impulse Master Grade. Now just some final thoughts on this model. I think, first of all, you can't go wrong because this is only 2,500 yen. And despite the fact that it doesn't come with a lot of weapons, I think in this case, less is more, because this Gundam is really all about the martial arts, etc., and using all sorts of techniques like that. So if it came with a lot of weapons, I think that might take away from it. But a couple of really nice things about it are, I like the jewel. The shining fingers are very well done in their translucent green. The transformation into hyper mode, even though it looks a little cartoony, I still think it's a very unique look for a Gundam. And when you're lining them all up against each other, this one is really going to stand out because of its colors, the way the head is done, and especially the red mask, and of course, the shining finger. So this is something, the action frame inside is very poseable, and you can do a lot of different things with it, and it's going to keep that pose on your shelf. So that's a real plus compared to some of the other weaker models. So for $25, if you're a fan of G Gundam, I think that you can never go wrong with this. And if you hate G Gundam, then I think that this is a model you can skip. Except for $25, I think you'd be missing out a little bit. So stay tuned for the G Gundam sometime in the future.